Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. We have so many stories to get through today, so let's get right into it. All right, first up, let's talk about this picture of Daredevil Born Again. The gang is back together. We officially see Karen and Foggy, or I guess we should call them by their real names, Deborah and Eldon. I think the Foggy's the actor's name is. Well, they're together, and honestly, like seeing this picture just gave me ultimate relief of like finally, like, all the debates are done. All the debates of like, oh, is Daredevil in the MCU? Is it not in the MCU? All the all the rumors and being worried about the show. I mean, to be fair, we should still be worried about the show, but all the rumors are done of like, oh my gosh, are they really not going to bring back Karen and Foggy? Blah, blah, blah. It's all done. All of that stupid conversation is done. They are in the show now. The show is in the MCU. Daredevil Netflix was in the MCU. It's all official now. And yeah, it really is just nice to see them together. I'm so curious to see what the old series was. What were they gonna do where Karen and Foggy weren't gonna be in it? I'm so fascinated. But yeah, the gang is back together, so let's celebrate that, I guess. All right, next up, Zoe Saldana saying that she would like to be in the DCU is coming from Threads. Or sorry, I forgot what the story was. So somebody asked James Gunn, Zoe Saldana say she would like to work with you again in the DCU. Are you interested to? Do you have any characters in mind for her? And James Gunn says, of course, and of course. So, and he says, I love Zoe. So it seems like James is saying that he has characters in mind for Zoe, so I would imagine that we are going to see Zoe Saldana in something at some point. And yeah, I mean, James Gunn is essentially confirming that yes, we will be seeing her. As far as who would she play, I mean, honestly, she's a pretty versatile actress. Like, she could play a hero, she could play a villain. I don't know. I think I'd like to see her play a villain. I don't know who necessarily, but I think I'd like to see her take a more villainous turn. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what she gets cast in. Honestly, if they go with an older Batman, maybe Catwoman. I don't know. So I'm just throwing shit out there. Maybe Talia al Ghul. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of pointless to speculate, to be completely honest. All right, next up, we got some more castings for Thunderbolts. It's coming from Deadline. Geraldine Viswanathan, that's the girl on the right, is set to join Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts as she replaces Ayo Edibiri, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is as well as the first girl's name, who is departing the project due to scheduling after production was delayed due to the dual WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes last year. The film added Lewis Pullman to step in for Steven Yeun, who departed for similar scheduling reasons as Edibiri. So, yeah, I think we talked about it last week that Lewis Pullman was rumored to play Sentry in the show. He was like Marvel's first look choice, and yeah, it seems like Deadline is now confirming that he was in fact picked. To be honest, I don't know anything about Lewis Pullman. I also don't know anything about Geraldine Viswanathan, so I've never seen her in anything. And I had no idea that Ayo Edibiri was even going to be in Thunderbolts. I don't know if that was reported on beforehand, but definitely kind of a bummer that she's not going to be in it anymore because she's great. I've mainly seen her in The Bear. I'm trying to remember. I think that's actually the only thing I've seen her in, but like she's really great, and I would have liked to have seen her in something, but. And I have to say, so here's the thing, right? It says that they had to step out due to scheduling issues, but like when I really think about it, and I look at how Steven Yeun acted when I reflect on how what Steven Yeun said after he left the project, it honestly did kind of come off as maybe he just wasn't feeling the project anymore. And now Ayo Edibiri is out. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that the movie's gonna be bad or anything. I haven't read the script, but obviously the SAG after strikes happened. Projects ended up being delayed, but it's one of those things where it's like, if there is a scheduling conflict, you have to assume that Ayo Edibiri and Steven Yeun chose other projects over Thunderbolts. And I feel like that has to be because either the movie's just straight up bad or they're not that passionate about it. And they were really just doing it for the paycheck. And they're like, hey, you know what? I'd rather do this other movie that I'm also signed up for. So I don't know. That I think it's something to think about because I do think that at the end of the day, whenever there's a scheduling conflict, I do believe that the actor has to pick which movie to do, you know? So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right, we also have a synopsis for Deadpool 3. It's coming from the Direct. The official website for Marvel in Japan added the first plot synopsis for Marvel Studios' Deadpool 3. The irresponsible hero Deadpool will change the history of the MCU with Wolverine? What? Wolverine's going to be in this movie? So some people are reading into this a bit and saying that he's going to change the history of the MCU. But, you know, essentially saying that they're going to, like, travel back in time and alter events of the MCU. And, I mean, that's certainly possible, right? Like, it's going to be a multiverse movie. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some amount of time travel involved. But, like, sorry. But, like, I also do think that it's possible that what it means is that Deadpool and Wolverine being in a movie together is going to change history, right? Like it's going to be a big moment in history. I do think that it could be referring to that as well. And it should also be noted that, again, that's translated from Japanese. So it's also possible that we're just missing some context of what was said. So I don't know. I'm not gonna take this too seriously. Like I'm not gonna go into Deadpool now expecting to see like time travel and to see events altered. Like I don't know. Maybe it would be for the best if he was like, "Hey guys, I'm just erasing all of Phase 4. We're starting fresh." I don't know. But yeah, we'll see exactly how it's handled. But I wouldn't look too deep into the synopsis if I were you. All right, next up, we have a first look at Captain America in Captain America Brave New World. So I'll pull this up here. So this was a listing on Amazon, I believe, and for like I guess Funko, the company Funko, they do these like loot box things where it's like a mystery box, and apparently next month's mystery box is going to be themed after Captain America Brave New World. And I wonder if it's one of those things where like because the movie was delayed or something, it's like they already had an agreement to do this, so they couldn't really stop it. But this is our first look at the suit, and I'll pull it back up here. I think it looks pretty neat. It's obviously very different from the original one because the original one was a lot more like white and like it had a lot more white on it, and this is a lot more blue focused. It doesn't have like the thing on his head either. I don't know. I like it. I'm also not that passionate about suits. I find when people are like super hardcore, like they either love or hate a superhero suit, I tend to just look at it and be like, I don't know, bro. It looks fine to me. You know, like I also don't get too passionate about superhero costume designs, but I see nothing wrong with this personally. All right, next story. Supergirl has been cast. Finally, it's officially Millie Alcock. We'll read this bit from Deadline. Millie Alcock has landed the coveted role of Supergirl in James Gunn and Peter Safran's new DC universe. There's been buzz that the new Supergirl will appear in Gunn's Superman Legacy, which is about to go before the cameras in Georgia, but that's not 100%. What we know now is that she'll appear in a DC-based project before starring in her solo feature, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. So yeah, I like I said before, I think this is really good casting, specifically because apparently this is going to be based specifically on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which is a run of comics. And I haven't personally read them, but everything from everything that I hear about it and that I've read about it, it seems like this version of Superman is going to be a lot more like jaded, and she's going to have a bit of an edge to her, because Supergirl's origin story is pretty tragic, whereas and I don't know if it's exactly how this is going to be in the show, but from my understanding, it's like Supergirl was sent to Earth in order to look after her younger cousin, Kal-El, right, Superman. And then so she was like shipped off to Earth, but something happened, I think, in the process, and like her ship put her in like a cryostasis situation, so she like remained a teenager because she was a teenager when Krypton exploded. So she like remained a teenager, and by the time she got to Earth, Clark had already grown up. So it's like one of those situations where she's kind of like frozen in time while Clark grows up. But her character is just super tragic because Clark was raised by loving parents, and he had like a human life for the most part on Earth, and that's who, that's his home. And Supergirl, like, she grew up on Krypton, and she had to see her planet explode. And so by the time she gets to Earth and she sees that even like her one mission is kind of like null and void because Superman, like, Clark is already grown up and he's Superman. She's like kind of purposeless in life, and she's jaded and depressed and whatnot. And I'm like, I honestly think that that's like a pretty interesting take on the character. Like, my only real experience with Supergirl is the CW show, and I mean, first of all, that just wasn't a very good show. But I think one of the core issues with it is that Supergirl did just feel like a female version of Clark Kent. Like, she like. She was like a bumbling guy person working in a freaking newspaper station, or I think it might have just been like a I don't know if they were printing newspaper because it was a more modern show. But anyway, like, she was like a bumbling character, and she had a crush on an aspiring news reporter, right? They even had like a Jimmy Olsen knockoff. It was just it just felt so familiar to Superman, where I'm like, this just feels like a knockoff that isn't particularly good. So I don't know. I think going in a more in this different direction with Kara and really differentiating her from Superman is smart. And yeah, like I said, Millie Alcock, I think she's going to be great in the role. We've seen her in House of the Dragon. So with this being a more edgy character, a more edgy Kara, Millie's got that dog in her, so I think she'll do great in it. And the other important thing to note is that Deadline is saying that Supergirl will in fact show up in a project before her solo movie, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. However, it's not 100% confirmed that it's going to be Superman Legacy. Although I obviously wouldn't be shocked if it did end up being Superman Legacy. Because, like, the one thing about it is that we don't know who's going to direct this movie. So one of my big concerns has been that they're casting it without the director of the movie, presumably, unless they've already hired a director and we just don't know who it is. But I've been kind of weirded out that they've been presumably casting the movie without the director. But if she's going to show up in a movie before Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, then that would probably be fair, because I mean, you have to cast her anyways. So yeah, we'll see how the movie turns out, of course, and I'm honestly pretty excited about it. Like, until I wasn't really until I heard the premise of the story, and I'm like, you know what, that actually does look pretty, or sound pretty cool. So yeah, let's move on to the next story. All right, so I wanted to talk about this story about Sokka's character change in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So this is coming from an interview with Entertainment Weekly, so let's get into it. I wanted to make sure that Sokka is funny, he says. And moving on later in the article, Owsley notes, there's more weight with realism in every way. Some things that worked in the more zany animated kids show hit differently in live action. So Owsley is the actor that plays Sokka. And then Kiwentio is the actress that plays Katara. Kiwentio mentions one of them. I feel like we also took out the element of how sexist Sokka was. I feel like there were a lot of moments in the original show that were iffy. Owsley agrees with Kiwentio. Yeah, totally. There are things that were redirected just because it might play a little differently in live action. So this interview very heavily hints at the fact that the Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender is seemingly going to take away some of the more sexist elements of the Sokka character, and this is one of those things that is definitely worrying. Now, it does need to be stated that we have not seen the show yet. They could be exaggerating how much they're taking out. Like, there's a moment where they says that they're redirecting it. I mean, who knows? So maybe that will still be an element of the show. It just won't. It just won't be as overt, maybe. And who knows? Maybe we watch it and we're like, you know what? In live action, having it be a bit more subdued maybe is like the right choice. Who knows? We do not know, actually. And so, but just engaging with what's most likely what they're saying, and just to engage with the possibility that yeah, it does seem like they're probably going to take out Sokka's sexism. It would be a sign of just severe, just not understanding the material, because Sokka's sexism early on in the show is a part of his character arc, and every time that Sokka is sexist, the show goes out of its way to establish that that's a bad thing. And it's this weird thing where it's like we're in like the fourth dimension of culture war nonsense, where it's like this woke aspect of the show is being taken out of the show in order to appease or because the directors are like, or the showrunners are trying to be woke because they think that this thing that's actually woke is unwoke, is problematic. It's so weird. It is so just bizarre. And the hilarious thing is just that if you're trying not to be problematic or whatever, bro, if you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, if that show came out today, you would have so many of these like anti-woke people losing their minds about how progressive it is. It is like an incredibly woke show. Like, thank God it came out before the stupid culture war nonsense where people complain about everything. Like, whether you're woke or you're like anti-woke. Everybody complains about everything. And it's like, if you don't believe me, like, I never would have necessarily thought that people would dislike the Toph character, but I've seen people get mad at Echo because she's like a superhero with a disability. Do you have any idea how mad people would get about Toph? Who's like this little girl who's like who's like the best airbender or whatever, and she's blind. People would have been like, oh, they're just checking, they're checking all the boxes. Oh my gosh, they're going so far with their wokeness that now disabled people need to be represented. Like, those people are out there, and Avatar would have been torn to shreds by those people. So it's just so weird that presumably the showrunners were like, oh, this incredibly woke thing, that's too problematic. I don't know. It's very strange. But again, we have to wait until the show comes out, and then we have to see exactly how they handle it. But as of right now, I don't know. I'm a little sussy. A little sussy-wussy over here. Let's move on to the next budget. Speaking of Echo, actually, let's talk about the budget, because this is very interesting. So this is coming from Forbes. Echo performed well on both Hulu and Disney Plus with a budget of $40 million. And this is kind of neat. Like, we've been getting these insane numbers where it's like She-Hulk and Secret Invasion cost like over $200 million to produce. And I've just been staring at these like figures for years now, being like, bro, what are you guys doing? How are you guys spending this much money? And your shows are looking as bad as they look. They're not nearly as good as they should be. And it's like, listen, I did not like Echo. I didn't like it. I thought it was very mid, as the kids say, to bad near the end, straight up bad at the end. And, or I should say, but this is undoubtedly a positive thing for the MCU. The fact that it only cost $40 million to produce. And by the way, whatever my complaints are with the show, at no point did it look bad. Like, it was all pretty, or it seemed practical for the most part, right? Because it's just like she's more of a grounded character, at least at the beginning of the series. And it's like, yeah, this is what you should be doing on Disney Plus. I don't know why you think it's a good idea to make a She-Hulk show where like you have to have a CGI character on screen the entire time. Like of course that's gonna cost way too much money, and of course, you know, it's gonna look terrible. Like Secret Invasion, I'm gonna be honest, I actually don't know how that how that show costs over $200 million to make. That actually is just kind of like straight up insane. But in any case, like still like shows like Echo is what they should be doing. Like hopefully Daredevil Born Again just sticks to the original Netflix series, because that's a show that did not cost a ton to produce. And when you're making shows with the intended budgets of being lower budget, and you work around that and you pick characters to adapt that lean to that lean towards that lower budget, like with Daredevil, and you look at the hallway fight, which is like one of the best fights in the MCU, and it's because Daredevil is just a character that you don't need a massive budget to work with. Echo is a character that you don't need a massive budget to work with. You know, theoretically, Hawkeye shouldn't necessarily be a character that you need a massive budget to work with. So I just think that Marvel needs to get smarter. And it's like, and if you are going to use larger than life characters, then you should then do stuff like WandaVision, where you creatively do things in a way where it is not going to be as expensive. Because, I mean, this is the thing with these streaming platforms where it's like, dude, like obviously Disney can't afford to keep spending this much money on their shows, and they have to find a way to cut costs. And I do think that it is by like just making stories that don't involve like two kaijus fighting, you know, like we saw in Moon Knight. So I don't know. For all of Echo's faults, I at least in terms of how these shows are made, it is a step in the right direction, in my opinion. So, and yeah, speaking of Daredevil, you're gonna talk about the Rizzler of Hell's Kitchen. So, there's a pic that came out of Charlie Cox kissing a lady. And this is kind of interesting because this seems to imply that her, like the thing from She-Hulk where Daredevil and Jennifer were in a relationship, is not really gonna be a thing anymore. I mean, I don't know. Like listen, did I love She-Hulk? Not necessarily. I mean, I didn't mind it. Like I definitely think it's overhated, but it's not the best thing I've ever seen for sure. But I thought that the Daredevil episode was really great, and I really liked the Jennifer and Matt relationship. So I am a little disappointed, to be honest, that that's seemingly not going to be a thing anymore. But at the same time, I get it. Like if you were going to keep them a couple, then that would kind of that would mean that She-Hulk would be in Daredevil, and she's probably too overpowered of a character for this series, because it's like she would just easily be able to walk in and beat up Kingpin or like any of Daredevil's rogues gallery. Like She-Hulk would just be able to go in and beat up. So I mean, I understand why Jennifer wouldn't be in this series. I mean, not to mention that this series is presumably gonna take itself incredibly seriously, especially now that they're going back in the direction of the original Netflix show. So I get it, and yeah, it looks like this is a potential love interest for Matt Murdock. Of course, Matt Murdock collecting women like Pokemon as he always does. So let's we're actually done with our news story, so let's get into what I've been watching. So I watched Night Swim. This is a terrible horror movie that came out earlier in the year. It's basically about a haunted pool. It is as dumb as that sounds. Like, somehow they were able to stretch the concept of what if we got a haunted pool into, like, I don't even know how long it was. It felt longer than it probably was. I don't know. It felt like a 2-hour long movie, but yeah, it's bad. Don't watch it. I don't even know what else to say about it. I also started watching Reacher. I think I'm like 2 or 3 episodes in. I'm a little underwhelmed by the show. Like don't get me wrong, I like it. It's good fun, but I guess listening to all the everybody praise it, I was like expecting some prestige sort of series, but getting into it, I realized, oh, this is just like a show that's kind of dumb fun, where we get to see a very large man beat up people. And that's great. That's entertaining. Like, again, I'm having fun with it, but and maybe this is just me understanding the praise or misunderstanding the praise. But I was like, oh, this isn't like prestige television, you know. So it's good. I'm enjoying it. I'll probably finish it. Yeah, it's basically just seeing Alan Richardson, whatever his name is, a very large man beating up guys, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. So yeah, okay, let's get into this. I watched Percy Jackson, episode 8, the finale. Yeah, I have to say I am disappointed in this series. Listen, I love the books of Percy Jackson. Like, as a kid, they were my Harry Potter. Never read Harry Potter, actually. I read Percy Jackson. Like, that was my fantasy series as a child. And I really wanted this to be, like, I wanted this to be the next Harry Potter. Like, I wanted this to be, like, the fantastic series that takes the world by storm and yada, yada, yada. And that's just not what this is. And I have to say this as well. It's kind of, it proves my point that, like, is it good to have the original creator of something on board when you're adapting it? Sure. Like, is it cool that they're going to be there to make sure that things are accurate and whatnot? Sure. If you're going for an accurate adaptation, sure. All that's true. But at the end of the day, if you don't have, like, the right people, like the right filmmakers writing the scripts and directing, if your actors aren't giving super strong performances, the original creator being on board doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, even more so than it being accurate to the source material, it's got to be good. That's the most important thing, and that's just the thing at the end of the day, is that the execution of this show is just lacking. It's like, I didn't think that the performances were all that strong. Production value on the show wasn't particularly strong. A lot of the big emotional moments didn't hit quite as strong for me. And don't get me wrong, it's not horrible. Like, it's not bad. Like, I had an all right time watching it. It's just that I wanted it to be more. I really wanted it to be great. So yeah, ultimately I'm disappointed. Although I also think that I'm in the minority on this. I do think that a lot of the hardcore fans are satisfied with it. And I've even seen some people that don't know anything about the books just saying that they think the show itself is just great. So I might be in the minority on this, but to me, it wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. All right. Let's end with this. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So here's the thing. I have not been playing this game. Listen, $70 is a lot of money for me. It is. I'll just be open and upfront about that. I am a little bit po. And so it's kind of a big deal whenever I decide to drop full, or whenever I decide to buy a game for full price. And I looked at it, And I was like, I don't really want to play this game. I don't like live service games. I don't like co-op games. Like, I am a single player gamer, and I just decided I think I'm just gonna watch the cutscenes, and that's what I've been doing. Well, actually, I've been watching this YouTube channel called Batman Arkham Videos. They've been around like for years, right? Like, I remember, like, since I was a kid, they've been covering the Batman Arkham franchise. And so they're doing like a thing where they're kind of just playing through it with no commentary. And I've been watching that. I've been watching them play through it, and so this is gonna just be me talking about what I've seen so far. I won't spoil anything, but this is gonna be giving my impressions. But I just want to be upfront and honest that I have not actually played the game. It has not been great so far. I mean, in terms of gameplay, just looking at it, it doesn't look fun. The gunplay doesn't look all that slick. Traversal around the map doesn't look fun. It looks stilted. Like, especially like coming off of Spider-Man 2 this year, which had such wonderful open world traversal. To get this, where you're either like grappling onto like a bat drone if you're playing as Harley, where like you're kind of just like kind of slowly going like, well, swing and then fall, and then swing a little bit and fall. Or like, like if you're playing as Captain Boomerang, like he can, like, basically he kind of taps into the Speed Force momentarily, but in effect he's teleporting. Where it's like when you're trying to like get across the map, you're like teleporting, falling, teleporting, falling, teleporting, falling. It's like there's not enough forward momentum at the end of the day. We're like when you like use an ability that sort of like flings you forward, you fling forward and then you stop and fall. And there's just not enough forward momentum here. So like, yeah, like traversal around the map, like I'm just looking at it and it looks really tedious. And then in terms of the story, that's where it's definitely better, but still not great. Like, I like our core Suicide Squad members. I like Harley and King Shark and Deadshot and Captain Boomerang. Like, they are fun characters, and I will say this, like, at least in terms of stories, this is not nearly as bad as Marvel's Avengers or Gotham Knights. Like, I know that this game is being treated like it's just another one of those games, but based on what I'm seeing, this is not as bad as those games. it just is not. I don't know. I genuinely don't think so. But even still, it's not nearly as well written as the Arkham games. Like an example I'll give is that in order to give context for the show, or for the world, I should say, they have to go to like a Justice League museum. And in that museum, you get like voiceovers of all of the Justice League that recorded dialogue, as their characters, like, introducing themselves and giving their backstories and exposition and whatnot. And I'm like, are you really telling me that Batman would be recording dialogue? He would agree to do this? Like, really? It's just like, it's so weird seeing like Batman being like, hello, I am Batman and I protect Gotham and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, Batman would not agree to do this. This is so weird. And it's like so in order to get your abilities for these characters, they end up stealing things from the Hall of Justice or whatever, right? And like Harley Quinn, she gets the Bat Claw, and she gets like a little bat drone that she sort of uses to grapple with in the air, and that's how she traverses the open world. And it's like they're like Batman's gadgets are just behind a glass case, and they literally just break the glass and grab the gadgets. And it's like Captain Boomerang gets like a Speed Force gauntlet, and Deadshot gets like a jetpack from like a villain or something. And like, you're telling me that these incredibly valuable pieces of technology are just hiding behind a glass pane. And it's just stuff like this all throughout where I'm like, they just didn't think this through well enough. Like, it's not clever enough. And I'm like, what? Oof. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, there are some cool elements here. Like I said, the characters themselves are like pretty fun, and like, it is, at the end of the day, like, it is neat to see. Like, I've always dreamed of what the Justice League would look like in the Arkhamverse, and it's like, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't getting some enjoyment out of seeing that come to fruition. And like, there are also some cool, I'll just say this: I watched the guy play through the Batman boss fight, and there are some cool ideas there. Like, I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's kind of neat. Like, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a little bit neat. And I also think that they're doing like a decent job so far of making how the Suicide Squad actually manages to take on the Justice League a bit believable. Because one of the things that I've been talking about is how, okay, like, the Justice League would be able to wipe out these characters in like a second. And I think they're doing an okay job so far of like showing that, of showing how the Suicide Squad would feasibly take on the Justice League. Or at the very least, I should say, they're doing a decent enough job of showing us how the Suicide Squad isn't just killing them immediately. So I'll say that. I haven't finished it. I know that there are people that are mad about it. And maybe I'll finish it and I'll come to the same conclusion. But, and I guess, because, I mean, I've been spoiled from some things just because it is this, dude, the culture around spoilers is so absurd. Like, it actually is making me really upset, the fact that people just openly talk about stuff. like the game hadn't even officially come out. They were still in like the early access periods, and I couldn't go on Twitter. I could not get on Twitter without people just posting pictures and videos of stuff that happens. And I'm just like, dude, this is like, you guys suck. Like, what? Like, I can't even go on YouTube without like videos of like, hey, here is this, without videos of like, hey, here's this scene playing out. And then that's just like in the title, like, here's spoiler in title. And then like I have to look at the thumbnail for a second. So it's like, okay, well, now I know like the context of when that's going to happen. So I'm going to talk about some spoilers here. So I'll just be warned about that. It'll say it also in like the timestamp that there are going to be spoilers in this discussion. So hopefully you're all good here. But yeah, I have seen that the Suicide Squad does in fact manage to kill the Justice League at some point. I don't know exactly how necessarily, although I have seen. So again, I think I'm going to spoil how right now. I'm going to spoil what I've seen of how one of the Justice League members gets killed. So if you don't want to hear that, definitely, leave. But I believe at some point Harley shoots Batman in the face. I don't know how they get to the point where they manage to get Batman down, like weakened enough that she shoots him in the face. But I do think that happens. And I have to say, I see people getting upset that they managed to kill the Justice League. And I'm just like, guys, if the Suicide Squad killing the Justice League is enough to trigger you, if that in and of itself is enough to make you upset, why are you playing a game called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? Now listen, if you just think that the story isn't well written and it's just like not well executed, that's one thing, and that's totally fine. But there are I have also seen people that are just straight up upset that even happens in the first place, which is just like, guys, like, can I'm sorry, I've noticed that a lot of fandoms have just unhealthy relationships with these characters where it's like, like whether it be like people getting mad because at Zack Snyder because Superman snaps Zod's neck, whether it be like people getting mad because Peacemaker told Aquaman and Flash to like go fuck themselves or something. Like, man, I just cannot relate to people having these just unhealthy obsessions with a lot of these characters to where we're like making a game about killing the Justice League will make people mad. That is just so stupid to me. And like and honestly, it's not even just comic book stuff, man. Like people being like, yeah, Lucas is supposed to throw a lightsaber over his shoulder. Well, you're personally wronging me, or like Master Chief isn't supposed to put on or take off his helmet. He's supposed to have his helmet on the entire time. He's not supposed to have sex. He's supposed to be a virgin. How am I supposed to relate to him now? It's like, I'm just so sick of this mindset, man. I don't even tell. I'm also tired right now, so maybe I'm just extra grumpy. But oh my gosh, I just don't care anymore. Like, anytime a criticism of something is, this is different than what I know this like IP to be like, or anytime a criticism is like, they disrespected the character, they disrespected him, I just don't care anymore. And this is where I'm at. And by the way, I love Batman. Okay? I love Spider-Man. I love, I'm trying to think of something that's been like adapted wrongly. It's like, I even love Avatar. I love Avatar. Am I like all that mad that the live action movie was bad? Oh, I love Percy Jackson. But guess what? I'm going to say this, and to be fair, I haven't watched it in a really long time. The Percy Jackson movie, the first one, to be clear, is better than the show. It is a better film than the Percy Jackson show is a show. Like, it is just better made. And like, I don't like, yeah, the show is more accurate to the source material. Okay. The viewing experience of watching that movie is better than the show. And so I'm just putting that up as an example of like you can't get me with anything. I am consistent about this. I don't know. I'm just so tired of all the responses, and oh my god, dude, I'm so sick of the culture war, man. It's so tiring. Like, I haven't gotten into this part in the game yet, so maybe I'll change my mind when I see it in context. But I saw people getting mad because there's like a bit in the movie where like the Suicide Squad, they get frozen by some kind of tech that freezes them, and like Deadshot is frozen, and he's like, and Harley is looking to like sexually harass him or whatever by touching his butt, and Deadshot is like, don't do it, Harley, don't touch my butt or whatever, and she touches his butt. And I've seen people being like, how dare she sexually harass him? These developers are woke freaks that think that it's okay to sexually harass men. If it were a man that did this to a woman, they would never allow that to happen. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Are we actually this, like, are we this deep in the culture war that like are we this brain dead? Are we this media illiterate? And again, maybe I'll change my mind when I see the scene in context. But like, do they actually think that Rocksteady thinks it's okay for women to sexually harass men when it's Harley Quinn doing it? Harley Quinn? A literal psychopath? It's like, mind you, we have seen in Rockstar's previous games, like, they adapted The Killing Joke, for God's sake, where we've seen like Joker like shoot Barbara and like take like creepy pictures of her. It's like I remember there was a scene in the first Batman Arkham game where like where Batman like takes like a slip of paper out of Harley Quinn's bra, and like obviously like I'm not saying that like Harley Quinn was like and that was Batman like sexually harassing Harley Quinn, but obviously Rocksteady knew what they were doing. Like the idea that these developers wouldn't do it if it was a man. It's like they literally have in the past, and I'm just like, dude, I hate everybody. I hate everybody, whether you be woke, whether you be anti-woke. I hate everybody that takes like that cannot they like people can't watch media anymore. They can't consume media. They can't do it without like taking everything, every single thing to like stake their flag on it for whatever side they're on in the culture war. It is so beyond annoying at this point, where it's like, because I've seen people like coping about it, being like, well, I'm only pointing it out because if it was the other way around, then people would be freaking out and people would be calling it woke, or the wokesters would be trying to cancel it. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. No, you don't get to do that, because guess what? You are imagining a situation in your head. That is a political position that you have. And what you are doing is the exact same thing that it is the exact same thing that the woke people do, where they take something and they get triggered over it because of their politics. What you people saying that you're doing like a three-dimensional jujitsu to take out the woke guys by like pointing out how it would be different if if it was a man doing it, then the woke people would what am I saying anymore? The woke people would be mad if it was a man, so I'm going to get triggered because it's a girl. I don't care if you're pointing out hypocrisy. You are like taking this piece of media and applying your own weird personal politics to it. That's what you're doing. I don't care if you say that you're pointing out hypocrisy. I hate you. I think you're annoying. I don't actually hate any of you. I hate the discussions, okay, just to be clear. But listen, at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I saw that going around yesterday and I was like, I can't take it anymore of this shit. At the end of the day, looping back to the game. It's sad. It is sad that this is what the game is, and just the fact that Rocksteady, they were one of my favorite developers, and one of the things that I kind of have to accept now is that Rocksteady is just not the developer that they used to be. We've seen this happen with like BioWare, for example, where at this point in time, BioWare is not really BioWare anymore. Like a lot of those they just don't have it anymore. And hopefully Rocksteady is able to come back in the future. Hopefully Warner Brothers doesn't force them into making some weird live service game again. Hopefully they're just able to make a game after this. But like, I'm looking at what the game turned out to be. And first of all, I am saying, like, how the hell did this take 9 years to make? Because that's the depressing part as well. It's taking them 9 years to make this. I'm just like, would we have just gotten, like, 2 more Arkham Knights in the time that it took them to make this one live service game? I'm like, how did it take you guys this long to make this? It's depressing how, like, video game development it takes so long to make games, and when it's taken especially this long to make this one game for one of my all-time favorite developers to follow up Arkham Knight with this, it is depressing. It genuinely does make me sad. But yeah, let me know what you thought about any and all of these topics here, and I will bid you farewell. Goodbye. I don't have a good outro. I actually am tired. I actually am grumpy. So yeah, bye.